October 29th, 1929. Tuesday morning. On Wall Street, telephones begin ringing before the sun is fully up. Inside brokerage houses, men in shirt sleeves stare at ticker tape machines that can't keep up with the volume of trades. The numbers are falling so fast, the machines are running 2.5 hours behind reality. Outside, crowds gather. They stand in silence. They don't know the exact numbers yet, but they can feel it. In living rooms across America, families sit around breakfast tables, reading yesterday's newspapers. The headlines are already old. The losses described in black ink are already much worse. A question hangs in the air, unspoken but everywhere. How does a nation go to sleep wealthy and wake up broke? To understand what happened that day, you have to go back to the years before it. The 1920s, the Roaring Twenties, a decade that felt like a promise that never ended. America had won the war. Factories were humming. Cars rolled off assembly lines. Radios appeared in homes. Electric lights replaced candles. Everything was new. Everything was possible. And everyone, it seemed, was getting rich. Not just the wealthy, ordinary people. Teachers, shopkeepers, secretaries. They were buying stocks, not because they understood the companies, but because stocks only went up. Month after month, the market climbed. Someone would buy shares in the morning and sell them by afternoon for a profit. It felt like magic. It felt like the rules had changed. People borrowed money to buy more stocks. Banks were happy to lend it. Why wouldn't they? The collateral was stocks, and stocks were going up. The wealth felt real. It showed up in new cars, in vacation homes, in the confidence that tomorrow would be better than today. But it was built on something most people didn't understand. Here's how it worked. You wanted to buy $100 worth of stock, but you only had $10. No problem. You could buy it on margin. The broker would lend you the other 90. If the stock went up to 120, you could sell, pay back the 90, and keep a $30 profit. You turned $10 into 30. A 200% return. This is what made people feel like geniuses. But the math worked in reverse, too. If that stock fell to $80, you still owed 90. You'd have to sell everything and still owe $10 you didn't have. Across America, millions of people were playing this game. They didn't think of it as a game. They thought of it as investing, as building a future. The more the market went up, the more people borrowed. The more people borrowed, the more the market went up. It was a loop, and loops don't stop gently. There were signs. In early 1929, factory output started to slow. Inventories piled up. Fewer goods were being bought, but stock prices kept climbing anyway. Wealth was concentrating at the top. The richest 5% of Americans held nearly a third of all the money. Most families lived paycheck to paycheck. They couldn't keep buying the goods that factories were making. In August and September, some of the smart money started quietly selling. Insiders. People with access to real numbers. They didn't announce it. They just moved their money somewhere safer. Most people didn't notice. The market had dipped before. It always came back. In late October, the dips didn't come back. Thursday, October 24th. Black Thursday. The market opened and immediately started falling. Not slowly. Not with explanation. Just falling. Panic set in. Everyone tried to sell at once, but there weren't enough buyers. Prices collapsed under the weight of all that fear. By midday, some of the most powerful bankers in America met in a private office at J.P. Morgan & Company. They pooled their money and started buying stocks. Big, visible purchases meant to show confidence. It worked for a few hours. The market stabilized. People exhaled. The weekend passed uneasily. Monday, October 28th, the selling resumed. Harder this time, and then came Tuesday. Black Tuesday. 16 million shares traded hands, a record that would stand for decades. But the volume didn't mean activity. It meant desperation. Stocks that took years to climb lost half their value in hours. Fortunes that existed on paper in the morning were gone by lunch. The ticker tape machines fell further behind. People were making decisions on information that was already obsolete. Outside the New York Stock Exchange, crowds pressed against police barricades. Rumors spread that men were jumping from buildings. Most of the rumors weren't true, but the fact that people believed them tells you everything about the mood. Here's what people didn't understand in the moment. When a stock price falls, the money doesn't go somewhere else. It just disappears. If you bought a share for $100 and it's now worth $50, that $50 is gone. It's not in someone else's pocket. It's not hiding. It simply no longer exists. But the money you borrowed, that's still real. Across the country, people owed loans on stocks that were now worthless. Brokers demanded payment. Margin calls went out by the thousands. Families sold their cars, their homes, anything they could, and it still wasn't enough. This wasn't just numbers on a ticker. It was life savings, college funds, retirement, all of it evaporating faster than anyone thought possible. The days after the crash were quieter, but worse. Companies that depended on stock sales for capital couldn't raise money. They started cutting jobs. Factories slowed, then stopped. People who lost their jobs couldn't pay their mortgages. Banks foreclosed. But the banks were in trouble too. See, banks had also been investing in the stock market. When the market crashed, they lost depositor money. When people panicked and tried to withdraw what was left, the banks didn't have it. One by one, banks closed their doors. Your life savings didn't disappear because you made a bad choice. It disappeared because your bank made one. By 1933, more than 9,000 banks had failed. Unemployment hit 25%. 1 in 4 Americans who wanted to work couldn't find a job. But the numbers don't capture it. There was a psychological collapse as deep as the financial one. Trust vanished. Trust in banks, in markets, in the idea that hard work led to security. Fear spread faster than facts. If your neighbor lost everything, you assumed you'd be next. So you stopped spending, stopped investing, stopped believing. And when everyone stops believing at once, the economy doesn't just slow down. It freezes. So why did it happen? There was no single villain, no one evil mastermind. The system was broken in small, invisible ways that added up. There were almost no rules. No federal oversight of stock markets. No requirement to tell the truth in financial statements. No insurance on bank deposits. Leverage was unlimited. You could borrow as much as someone would lend you, and they'd lend you a lot, as long as prices kept going up. There was blind trust. People believed markets were rational, that prices reflected real value. They didn't. And there was herd behavior. When everyone around you is getting rich, it feels stupid to sit on the sidelines. So, you join in. And when everyone joins in at once, the bubble gets bigger. And when it pops, everyone drowns together. The crash didn't happen because people were dumb. It happened because the system made it almost impossible not to fail. What came after changed America permanently. The government stepped in like never before. The Securities and Exchange Commission was created to regulate markets. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insured bank deposits. Social Security gave people a safety net. The relationship between citizens and government shifted. People wanted protection. They wanted someone watching to make sure it didn't happen again. But maybe the deepest change was psychological. An entire generation grew up afraid. Afraid of debt, afraid of markets, afraid to trust that good times would last. Parents who lived through the crash taught their children to save everything, waste nothing, trust no one with your money. That fear got passed down, even to people who never experienced the Depression themselves. The crash became a scar on the national memory. If you look closely, you can still see its shape today. We still have margin. We still have speculation. We still have people borrowing money to buy assets they hope will go up forever. We still hear the phrase, "This time is different." Different technology, different markets, Different rules. But the human behavior, that stays the same. Greed doesn't update. Fear doesn't get patched. The desire to believe you've found easy money is hardwired. The systems have changed. We have circuit breakers now. Regulators, insurance. But systems are only as strong as the memories that built them. And memory fades. The 1929 crash wasn't just a financial event. It was a lesson about what happens when trust replaces scrutiny, when leverage replaces savings, when everyone believes the good times are permanent. It showed that markets aren't machines. They're made of people, and people are driven by hope and fear more than logic. The crash didn't happen because the world ended. It happened because too many people believed it never would. So here's the question worth sitting with. If it happened once, in a time that felt modern and advanced and different from everything before it, what makes us so sure it can't happen again?